Hi, welcome to CMB. I'm not SVP.
Neither am I. I'm Arman Ibrahim and this is Aditya Patel.
And we're here to talk to you about the brand new X1 Racing League. So Arman here is going to tell us first a little bit about the X1 Racing League.
What it is basically is it's exploring motorsports and creating a whole ecosystem on the basis of motorsports. What we're about is basically going to be 8 franchisees, which each franchisee will have 2 cars with 4 drivers, 2 international, out of that 1 being a woman, and 2 Indian drivers. So it gives the Indian drivers a chance to compete with the world's best and in a very own background. It's going to be really exciting and power-packed.
It's really weird that he's telling me all this. We've done all this together and we're still all doing all this together.
I have to.
But top story on this show, the new bikes from Hero MotoCorp.
India is slowly but surely warming up to the concept of spending money on big adventure bikes and exploring the vast and beautiful landscape that our country has to offer. But amidst all the big ADVs, there was a need for something at the very opposite end of the spectrum. Sure, the Royal Enfield Himalayan and the BMW G310 GS do service that need. But what if you're someone who has very limited off-road skills and an even more limited budget, but still have an unlimited desire to ride and explore? Well then, the Hero XPulse 200 is here.
After being showcased for the first time at the 2017 EICMA motorcycle show, the Hero XPulse 200 is finally here in India. It's been launched after a wait of a year and a half. In spirit, it is the successor to the Impulse, which was not very popular at the time of its launch, but after it was discontinued, it gained popularity. This motorcycle promises to be one of the most affordable, if not the most affordable adventure bike in the country that you can buy.
It is shot with 21-inch wheels up front and an 18-inch unit at the rear, which are wrapped in seared grip dual sport tires. And it gets conventional telescopic forks with rubber gaiters up front and a monoshock at the rear. The front end has a travel of 190mm, while the monoshock has a travel of 170mm and has 10-step adjustability for preload. As far as brakes are concerned, the bike gets a 276mm pedal disc up front and a 220mm disc at the rear.
The XPulse 200 has a lean, mean design. Its narrow compact dimensions, flat wide handlebar, a narrow single piece seat and the wide spoke wheels give it a dirt bike kind of an appeal, which will sit well with the target audiences. The overall minimalist theme may not wow you, but it will definitely get you second glances on the road.
The high-set side-mounted exhaust, wide handlebar with knuckle protectors, and the metal bash plate are all giveaways that it is meant to take on the rough stuff. Get on the motorcycle and the narrow seat might not make your bottom feel comfortable, and it could have been a bit softer. Its height of 823mm may cause some trouble to shorter riders.
The seating position on the motorcycle is upright and comfortable. It's absolutely adequate for spending long hours on urban commute. And should you want to hit the trails and stand up and ride, the standing up position also feels natural. So you don't have to bend too much, and the foot pegs are nicely positioned. And the fuel tank recesses, they help you to grip the fuel tank with your knees, making you more confident when you go off-road riding.
Like the Xtreme 200R, its sibling gets a 199.6 single-cylinder 2-valve engine, and the motor pumps out around 18 brake horsepower at 8000 rpm and peak torque of 17.1 Nm at 6500 rpm. The engine is paired to a 5-speed gearbox and is fuel injected, unlike the motor on the Xtreme 200R, which is carbureted. And as far as exhaust notes go, it is more or less similar to that of the Xtreme 200R. Not quite a guttural shriek, but a mellow hum. For the price, it is loaded with features. You get a fully digital instrument panel which offers Bluetooth connectivity and turn-by-turn navigation. Other features include a full LED headlamp and a single-channel ABS which works only on the front wheel. And while the quality of plastics could have been better, the overall build quality is up to the mark in typical Hero fashion. We like how the XPulse 200 behaves in the city. It is not exactly quick off the line, but there is enough juice to keep you trundling along at city traffic pace. The gear shifts are notchy but precise. And as the needle on the tachometer inches closer to the red line, you begin to feel the vibrations on the handlebars and the foot pegs. The engine itself could have been a touch more refined, and we really would have liked a few bhp more squeezed out of the 200cc engine. If you take the motorcycle on the highway, you'll have to contend with a cruising speed of about 80 to 90 km per hour. It can reach triple digit speeds alright, but not in a way which will make you go wow. The gem here is the suspension. It makes light work of bad roads and irregularities on the tarmac.
While the on-road performance won't set your heart racing, the motorcycle can sure take a beating when you go mild off-roading or go exploring trails. The long travel suspension is game for jumps and tough terrain. Of course, the 21-inch front wheel does rob your front end feel, but then the grip from Seat tires is adequate on the road or off it. And yes, the aluminium dash plate ensures that the engine stays in one piece when you go over rocks and debris.
We spent a better part of the day riding through trails, tackling steep inclines, and sometimes taking flight off a crest as well. And the motorcycle took everything in stride. It is really meant to take on the rough stuff. Plus, the single channel ABS works well should you need to grab a fistful of front brake. The good part is you can still lock the rear wheel and slide around should you want to dance around with the XPulse 200. The motorcycle loved the city grind and off-road hustle we subjected it to. It is light, can be thrown around corners with gay abandon, and while the engine could have done with a bit more power, it keeps you entertained when riding on mild trails. It is a good motorcycle in case you want to begin riding off-road and cut your teeth on before you splurge on a bigger, more powerful adventure bike.
It was in 2018 that Hero MotoCorp had come out with the Xtreme 200R, and we had ridden the motorcycle here at Budh International Circuit. Exactly a year later, we have this with us. This is the Xtreme 200s. It's a fully faired version of the Xtreme 200R. It shares the cycle parts and the mechanicals with the Xtreme 200R, and yes, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It gets the same 200cc engine as the Xtreme 200R, makes about 18 brake horsepower and 17.1 Newton meters of peak torque. The engine is paired to a 5-speed gearbox, and as far as you can see, the brakes, it's a 276mm unit up front and a 220mm unit at the rear. Of course, the frame, the chassis, everything is shared with the Xtreme 200R. The Hero Xtreme 200s is priced at 98,500 rupees ex-showroom Delhi, and it will go up against the likes of the TVS Apache RTR 200 and the Bajaj Pulsar NS 200. The 200 to 400cc motorcycle segment in India is growing at a rather decent pace, and this is where Hero wants to capitalize. Since the launch of the Xtreme 200R last year, Hero has brought in 3 new models based on the same platform, which are the XPulse 200, the XPulse 200T And this, the newest baby of them all, the Hero Xtreme 200s, which is a fully fed motorcycle, and it looks really gorgeous.
So those were the new bikes from Hero MotoCorp. So a lot of people have been asking me, especially since Arman and I have started this venture together, they always come and say, you know, I've always thought racers aren't friends. What do you think?
On track, yes, we're not friends. But we are chari buddies. We travel together, and that means I've known you my whole life, basically.
We pretty much have known each other for our whole life. So we're stuck with each other whether we like it or not. But on track, put us in a car, we're not friends. Off track, we're chari buddies. And now going to Royal Enfield in Korea.
Royal Enfield is now officially in South Korea. The Indian bike maker has added this as its latest market and now sells its motorcycles in many countries worldwide. The Seoul operations represent a move away from the private importer to a dealer partner. Vintage Motors has been appointed the distributor partner for RE, and the brand will now provide sales, service and spares for the South Korean buyer through Vintage. Yes, the brand is growing and growing fast. Royal Enfield has gone from being the niche boutique maker of retro motorcycles less than a decade ago to now being counted as one of India's major two-wheeler manufacturers. Hard to believe that a company that sold less than 50,000 motorcycles a year in 2010 now sells in excess of 8 lakh annually. That's about 68,000 a month. While most of that growth has come from the domestic market, a large part of the brand's increasing strength is thanks to its overseas business too.
Royal Enfield now sells its bikes in over 50 countries. There are 540 dealerships worldwide and 39 exclusive stores like this one. Korea was the very latest market to be added, and last year it was Argentina that came just before this one.
Forget about all your troubles and how you're gonna pay your rent.
RE has established larger operations, or what it calls market companies, in the USA for North American sales, Brazil for Latin American markets, and Thailand for Southeast Asia. These countries also have the company itself importing and selling its bikes instead of using importers or partners. The appeal, of course, comes from the retro modern classics in its fleet and the price points, which differ tremendously from other brands in that space.
Now, like me, you may be forgiven for thinking that it's the Bullet or the Classic that's going to get the most interest here in Korea as well. It's still early days, but so far, majority of the bookings are for this bike, the Himalayan.
Yes, a surprise indeed. But that may change soon, as the Interceptor 650 and Continental are also now being homologated for sale in Korea. The Interceptor in particular is already getting a lot of inquiries according to the management here. The company exported 20,825 units last year and expects that number to grow. It is also eyeing potential opportunities to enter new markets and has a few countries on its radar. As it consolidates its new markets and also deals with the demand for the 650 twins, expect Royal Enfield to continue to pursue global growth and enter even more countries this year.
Okay, on to the final segment. We've got some exclusive classic Volvo cars. Hammer was in Sweden to bring you this.
Whenever we've talked about Volvo, it's always been about its new cars. They're stunning, all right, and we've never doubted that. But we wanted to put on the brakes to the present. and dive into nostalgia, the 60s to be precise. Because this decade saw the company bring in some great cars out on the road. And yes, we got a chance to drive them. There were 3 cars lined up. First among those was the PV444.
Now the 444 was that car which propelled Volvo's dreams to export to other countries, and it was made here, right here in Sweden, and it's the earliest of them all. So you can see there's a lot of play in the steering already. It's not bad to drive at all. At a time when American cars were at the peak, Germans were already building a bit. This Swedish car manufacturer made things difficult for them. This one in particular, the exterior paint is as is, right from the 1960s. So that speaks about the quality.
Now the car I drove clearly showcased the evolution of the brand. And yes, there were a few rough edges, but those were creased out with the coming of a sports car, which changed the fortunes of the company.
It's an absolute legend, this thing, and because this model, the P1800, was actually driven by another model, a role model of sorts, Roger Moore. He drove it in a series that he did, and well, it was a runaway success after that. Otherwise, frankly, nobody would have cared about this Volvo. But look at it, it's streamlined, it's so beautiful looking, and yes, it takes some time to understand how Roger Moore folded himself into it, because I myself I'm finding it pretty cramped to get in and get out. Ingress and egress is an issue, but still, once behind the wheel, it's absolutely fabulous. 1.8 litre engine, 115 brake horsepower, and that smile. Oh, nothing comes closer to having fun. Nothing.
Another car to be made in the 60s by Volvo was the 144 station wagon, and this is the 145. The 5-door station wagon was big on space, and the boot was big enough to swallow a couple of calves. The 144 not only signaled the introduction of a new numbering system for Volvo, but it continued with it in the 145 as well. In fact, it showed a new direction in terms of safety. It had disc brakes all around, a split steering column, and a new lock on the 3-point safety belts. The body had energy absorbing crumple zones at the front and rear. Even the door locks had a safety design. The 145 also meant the introduction of a triangle split dual circuit brake system. The car had 2 brake circuits, and if one of them failed, 80% of the braking effect was still available. So safety was paramount, and it is now too. Looking back at the past has made us realize that the constant for Volvo has been safety, and its development still continues. The evolution of Volvo's cars and technologies is worth noticing, and yes, it's only getting better.
So that was fun. Wrapping up now, for more details on the X1 Racing League, log on to the Car and Bike website for videos and more. Always remember, wear your helmets and your seatbelts.